But in the marvellous Marboyles, it's an absolute delight to be knocking around St Nicholas's churchyard. Always a pleasure, never a chore. As is also spending time with Emilia, Bona, Stewart and Damian Kavanagh. We are here with our friends at Erdinger. We've been betting for a while, having a lovely laugh about the cricket. Emilia went yesterday, maybe we'll get onto it. But other things that have happened at the time of recording, by the way, because it is Thursday, we're putting this out on Friday. But other things that have happened, what counts for yesterday, Mo. Starts off with the big fella. I don't really want to get into the ins and outs. I think more will come out about that. And it's interesting the Uruguayan FA have very much stuck up for the players in Big One. Liverpool have said duty of care. We're going to want to find out what's happening. Not making any comment yet. There's just a little bit of a thing in the back of my mind, which is he's always the centre of the action. And I think if we're not careful, people are almost going to get a bit bored of him always being at the centre of the action. He's at the centre of any bit of action that's ever going. That's the nature of the person he is. We've either got to get on board or not.
Like, if Why Always Me hadn't already been trademarked by Balotelli, he could have a really good claim to it, because it does feel like it's always him. And I do feel for him sometimes, because he very much is acting on instinct, and in that situation, it's one of those things where everybody instinctively would do the same thing. He wasn't by far the only player in there, but if you look at every media outlet, if there's only one player they've named,
it's him.
It's him. And he has no control over that. And so, like I say, I feel sorry for him to a certain extent, but by the same token, you do think that somehow, at some point, someone's going to have to take him aside, put an arm around his shoulder and say, "Could do with you being a bit anonymous for a little while there, mate."
Yeah.
And
I don't have a way with Keir Starmer. It worked out for him, didn't it?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think Mac is his guy. I think Mac's the guy who's on his wavelength, and he's a very calm, very understated, very much I can fade into the background until everyone notices I'm here kind of character. And I think if they can spend more time together, then it might actually help. But I think to a certain extent, the same with Balotelli. Once the die is already set, people are going to be looking for reasons to reinforce it.
Do you know, like, if you're the naughty kid in primary school, when you go up to comp, all the teachers are like, naughty kids, like, they're absolutely the naughty kid. There's a degree to that with Darwin. I'm not saying he's not often at the centre of things, but he's the one that people are writing headlines about, and that's cyclical, because the point is, if you're often involved, or if you're often at the centre of a madness that's going on, people will continue to write headlines about you. But the point is, as you say, he's not the only one there, but he's the one that everyone focuses on, and he's the one that we're all talking about. Oh, it's a Liverpool podcast, but you know, it's that people want to write about him being that person.
But it's in part, I think, so it's what he looks like. He's 6'2".
Yeah.
He's got long hair. He's got a certain face. As much as that, as much as that is, and I'm not saying it's not a nice face. I think it's a lovely face.
It's a lovely
but
face.
It's the sort of face that people, everyone's just sort of waiting for it, and I just quite like. And it felt like the tournament's been brilliant for him. Scored a ton of goals, had a ball, and now suddenly there's this. And to your point, it does feel a bit like he's the naughty kid.
Well, that's what I mean, and like, he is a commanding presence. Do you know what I mean? Like, he looks a certain way and carries himself a certain way and acts a certain way. And I'm not saying that he at points isn't responsible for his own conduct, but I do think everyone almost has his card marked and goes, that's who he is, rather than saying, like you said, it's a situation that if anyone found themselves in, and I know we don't know the ins and outs of what's going on, and that's why I think Liverpool's statement is good in saying we're going to establish facts before we do anything else, but we don't know the ins and outs of what's going on, and I would have reacted in the exact same way.
And it goes with, it's an extension of what you're saying about the naughty kid. I don't necessarily think it's the naughty kid. We think he looks like that. So he's a massive money signing for a worldwide club.
Yeah.
And then he's not playing holding midfield like his mate Alexis, who can then prove he's the best player on the pitch by just doing it.
Yeah.
He's a big brute of a fella. There's something primal about a number 9 what puts themselves about. You know what I mean? And I'm sure he looks gorgeous. He doesn't look, he doesn't have an ugly face to me, but I'm sure for all the parts, and he's the type of player who is then defined by how many goals he scores. So he's right at the sharp end. So he's on the sharp end of a load of things. So it might not even be you've got it in for him because he's naughty or he's done bad things in the past. All of that is going to drag the attention. And the only answer to it is to put the ball in the net.
But he can't put the ball in the net
and then he
time.
Indeed not. And then when he does start putting the ball in the net, you think, right, the day has finally come. And then something mad happens. And like you say, it's like, why always me?
I don't know if they don't feed into each other as well, though. Because
I think they do. That's the point I'm making.
I think if that hadn't happened, he would have still been a story after that game, because he did miss some good chances in that game that probably
that's what happened. Yeah, completely.
And it's almost as if, remember the Spurs game where he missed a chance right at the end and then he walked off and everyone's like, oh, he's pissed off with himself because he knows that he should have done better. And that emotion, that compounding of emotion, and it's almost like it's like a kettle. It's just like you can just feel it about to go to boil.
And if you can channel it in the right way, you've got the greatest signing in the world. And if it goes a bit wrong, people want to scoff because I've got this big rival and we want them to fail, and they spent a lot of money. And he's just and we loved his passion when he was booting the advertising boards at the League Cup final, and we were going, hang on a second, don't injure yourself again. So he's on that knife edge all the time, but that's the way that he plays, and that's the way that he is. And as much as you might want to channel his energy better, and there'll be loads of players in history who've been able to do that, I think he's still got a little bit of a way to go to channeling himself into so he becomes the best of himself.
I think we've said it before, but I'd always rather back the horse in the Grand National that needs the blinkers on, that when it's going into the parade ring is like whinnying all over the place and being mad, because you can refine that, but you can't give someone a level of aggression, you can't give someone that kind of that spirit. And I think it's the same as like people focus on a personality or a persona because there is a cult of personality around them. So like every single time Mo Salah gets subbed off and like is a bit annoyed, there's headlines about it because he's so annoyed at himself, or he's annoyed at the manager, or this and that. In a way where you think like he's just annoyed, he is annoyed at himself, and as any player who wants to be scoring goals will be. But I think with Darwin, there's a personality there, and I'd rather there be that and we can just refine it than just have nothing.
I think the manager thinks the same, and I think it's really instructive. The fact that he actually, not only did Arne Slot make a point to talk to him before almost anyone else, but he also mentioned that in his very first press conference. I've spoken to him, I've told him what I want him to do, I've reinforced the fact that we want you here. Because he can see that his kind of personality that leaves that reinforcement. And I like the fact that Slot is very much keen to say, okay, well, these players aren't monoliths, I have to treat some of them differently, I have to be more conciliatory with this guy compared to this guy he can leave on his own. And it's very much his whole MO is, I want to get the very best out of this guy, because like you say, there's definitely something there that we can harness, and we just need to harness it. And Slot's got his work cut out, but I think he's up for the job.
But one of Jurgen's greatest strengths was the HR. Do you know what I mean? Like James was kind of doing the man managing off the pitch of working with personality. So if that's something he comes in trying to emulate, then that's a great bit to borrow from Jurgen.
Can you think of a historical comparison? Anyone of another sort of centre forward who refines over an extended period? I mean, Suarez is the one that knocks around, but Suarez was always, I think it was a little bit different in a couple of ways.
For us?
Well, just full stop in football, really. The one I always
Cantona reined himself in, didn't he?
Cantona, there's Drogba. I always come back to Drogba where Nunez is concerned more so than any other player. I think it's a little bit difficult, but then I think simultaneously there's things you don't know. Because one of the things about older football, it was much more of a closed book. What was going on behind the scenes, personalities were less of a factor. You literally watch less football because less of it was on the telly. So, the idea of centre forwards who put themselves about in every single sense was from a bygone time. But this is part of it, to your point. You can get away, well, not get away with this, but this could be part of your personality. If you're a certain type of centre half or a certain type of centre forward, it doesn't really bobble. You don't remember the rambunctious left backs of our times. It is this, isn't it, Mo? And I think that's where there'll be a point somewhere, and I hope it is at Liverpool. Not this guy, I think he's great, but where it does click and come together, at least for a season.
I think so.
And that's what we're waiting on.
Well, that's the key for me. I think it's not about whether or not it can click and he will suddenly become a different person. It's can we harness it for a period of time?
Yeah.
Because even Suarez, using the example, like we got great work out of him, and then what did he do? He went off to Uruguay and he beat Chiellini in the World Cup. So it's almost like you can control it for a time.
Yeah.
But if you have that bubbling inside of you, then if you're that much of a volcano, it's almost impossible to completely change it. I think even going back to previous guys like you mentioned Cantona, obviously he had his blow up.
There's a reason why I thought of him.
And then it was only really 2 years after that he retired.
But also someone like, I mean, because of the personality, it doesn't quite come up. But I remember like Mark Hughes. Mark Hughes was an unexploded bomb on the pitch, the way in which he go about his business at centre forward, an absolute. But
you could do that then.
But also wasn't the same personality type off the pitch.
No.
And that's in various other matters. But
David Speed, was another one, and he was just calm as ice off the pitch, but on the pitch he was like a Tasmanian devil.
This did go on, you know what I mean? There is sort of precedent of this.
David Beckham learned to rein himself in because he was very petulant.
Yeah.
I think he was nowhere near the aggression that we've just spoken about with the players there. But he learned the hard way that if I'm not a gentleman and disciplined, this is going to go wrong, and it went completely right after that. So there is a way forward from this, and I'm not saying he should model himself on Beckham or anybody else. I agree with what you're saying there about the fact that you can't ask people to be anything other than the best of themselves, and there will always be these ingredients, and these ingredients make this player and this man what he is. And I don't know anywhere near enough about the case and what had gone on, and if your family's in that stand and whatever have you, they've done it. I'd have jumped up there and, if you'd shepherded them back and then that wouldn't have looked bad. But he's the headline grabber for all the reasons that we've said.
Yes.
And then he's walking into something that's a headline grabber. But how many people would have acted differently?
Well, I couldn't have climbed up.
That's your mistake, he's not playing cricket.
I couldn't have climbed up. I'd been dangling from it. Can someone give me a hand there? Hang on, we've got another situation. Back in a second or two, Mark Boyles, Erdinger, back to talk about the final.
And Erdinger, please.
Stop! Don't forget the best bit.
We are back in Marboyles ahead of a weekend of two finals. One's Copa America, involves two Liverpool players. One is England versus Spain, which theoretically involves two Liverpool players. Neither of them might get on. One of the sadnesses of the tournament, really, from a Liverpool point of view, Emilia, is we're not going to see Ryan Gravenberch now or Joe Gomez for effectively until around sort of the 10th of August. There's a new manager, there's a new season, it's all about to go off. 10th of August might be a little bit overstated, but not by much, maybe about the 6th or 7th. And you're just a bit like, put Trent to one side, put Alexis McAllister to one side, put Darwin to one side, put Diaz to one side. It just feels like a waste of their time.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is setting aside any feelings that I have about the England team, and I'm sure we will chat about that, but I think that it just feels pointless because I don't care. Do you know what I mean? It's not even to do with me actively hating or disliking them. I'm just not asked. And if any of them were playing for Wales, I'd say I don't care if I don't see them until 2025. I'm absolutely fine with it if we've got a chance of winning the Euros. And I know that that's what it means to other people. I don't understand it, but that's what it means to them. And I think that if it's not something that you're invested in at all, regardless of whether you have any strong negative feelings towards the England team, it just feels a bit pointless. Like Trent got to have a nice moment, and that's lovely, but that for me is not enough to kind of for our business. And yeah, it just feels like a waste of our time as Liverpool fans.
It doesn't to me, and I certainly, I think we're going to be very much in agreement about how we feel about the English team. But with regard to it's no good for us for Gravenberch, it's no good for us for Gomez, I just think that's first world problems. We'll have to suck that up.
No, it's fair.
Because England are entitled to go as far as they can and make if they're allowed a 47-man squad, they should take 47 men with them, and they should prepare for the 100th possible thing that could go wrong, and Joe Gomez could come in there just at the last moment that could get us in the final and or whatever. And so them's the breaks. And so we've just got to say, well, we're fortunate enough to have international players on our books. That sort of thing's got to happen.
It's not Wycombe Wanderers' problem, but we'd rather watch our players.
Do you know what I mean? You know, so and so of course that doesn't work for us, and I do have a dog in that race about how I feel about Liverpool about it. But I just think it's one of those things, and maybe I can console myself with the fact that okay, we won't see them, but they haven't been running to the ground either, because while they've been doing the training and keeping sharp and staying amongst great company and still being, feeling like I've got as good a career internationally, which is a bit by being at this club. I'm not being held back because I'm playing for another club. I haven't been ran into the floor either. So there's a bit of, I'm calm about that particular aspect. I'm quite calm about it.
I think it's a bit of a course for course thing. So with Joe, I mean, we know he's been in the weight room. Anyone who's seen any of the England footage have seen him in the weight room pretty much every day. So he's keeping himself busy, he's keeping himself fit. He's doing all the things you'd expect a veteran to do. And I think in terms of his, like you say, where he is in his career, his standing, he'd much rather be there in and amongst the squad than sitting at home watching.
You'd have loads of Liverpool fans who don't want England to do well, who then moan, how come you didn't say Joe Gomez? He's had a great season.
For Ryan, it's funny because I still think he's in a little bit of the doghouse internationally.
Spot on.
I think the way that was it last summer that he decided not to go to a tournament, the under-21s, because he wanted to get ready for us. I think,
or Bayern Munich at that point. He wanted to get ready for his club game.
Yeah. So he's still got a little bit of way to ingratiate himself back in within the squad, even though obviously he's busy with the captain. But I think he's still young enough to say once again, he'd rather be there. Like if the Netherlands had beaten England and they got to the final and he was sitting at home, he'd be feeling worse than if he was sitting on the bench watching them get beat. So
You've written a piece about trying to get stuck into England.
I have.
Gone down quite well.
Surprisingly so, actually.
Surprisingly so. I think that's a story that people do want to read. I think that's part of what, to be fair to Southgate, who does drive me to distraction in other ways, I think part of what the Southgate project has been trying to pull together a sense of England that is a bit different. You know, whenever I think of him as a tactician or the way in which he's treated one of my favourite Liverpool players, putting that to one side, at least briefly, part of it has been the idea of trying to shift the culture around the English national team. So are you looking forward to Sunday?
Yes, I am. You're right, absolutely, about Southgate. If you park the football side, then he's a great statesman. And the irony is...
I think he's a gentleman.
Yeah. And I think he's willing to put his head above the parapet in things that he thinks are important. And some of those things have been what has helped everybody kind of look beyond the obvious negatives of being an England fan and say, well, okay, well, this guy and these players deserve support. So Grace Robertson tweeted something this afternoon, which I thought really was perfect for the way I feel about it. There are so many obvious reasons why people can be negative towards the England football team. I'm talking about English people here, not you, Emilia. But the point is that none of those things are as indicative of the England that I know and love as the team.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like, I recognise these fellas. Like, these are like my mates. And I want to root for them. And I don't want the worst elements of whatever England fandom can be at its worst to get to keep these lads.
I think
because they don't deserve them.
Just because something's been appropriated by Gammons doesn't mean that no one else gets to enjoy it. Do
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Like, just because they like it doesn't mean that you can't.
I
But
agree
it
with
does.
that. You can't let people ruin your life because they're knobheads.
Yeah, and like just because you like the same things, and I think that. It's difficult though because like I fully understand like having a sense of national pride when it comes to a sport because I get it with Wales, but like looking at every other nation, like if a load of people would support Spain, I'd be like amazing, brilliant. If you were in Spain enjoying it or in France watching people support their team, there's just something about English people enjoying sport in England that I find icky. I don't know what it is. It just turns me off, and I think maybe it's a Welsh English thing. But I don't. But you're right. That team isn't that. Like if you know, it's.
And the great shame is because the best example there, I'd say we could just think of London 2012 Olympics.
Yeah.
Now everyone felt different. A lot of people felt loads different about that, and that was a great moment in time. That fortnight or whatever it was a great period in time. But yeah, the English football team's not that. I've got time for Southgate. I think he's a gentleman, and I think what you're talking about making a reflection about what it should more be. I think he certainly tried that. So regardless of whether you think he's a boss manager or not, do you think he's a decent guy? That's the bit, I'm talking about that bit. I think he's a decent guy.
I also just really don't want Jordan Pickford to be happy, and that's what a lot of this comes down to. There's a lot of watching him in a penalty shootout or watching him at any point going, I just really don't want you to have a nice time.
But I feel like I'm growing as a human being because I'm able to be happy for these other people. So another example is Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker does my freaking head in most of the time, particularly when people try to compare him to Trent. But when he's in an England shirt, I'm like, don't worry, he can make mistakes, he'll run back and get them, it's fine, it's fine. Or like in the game in the semi-final, Phil Foden, suddenly he saw Virgil van Dijk and turned back into himself again. And it's just like, there's a little part of my brain that's just like, I knew that was going to happen. But at the same time, I'm like, yes, I'm happy for it. And even so, I've been watching it in Bucks Park, and it's very much like everybody is on the same page. And being in that communal space where everyone is singing the same songs, everyone feeling the same feelings, like we know what that's like. We know that that's a very attractive perspective. It can work for a different team. And I have to mention this because it makes me laugh every single time. I've watched 4 games in there and everyone's been singing Vindaloo, 3 Lions is coming home.
I mean, 3 Lions is a banger.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest.
It is. Although, I saw the conversation you were having about Emilia about Mr. Brightside. I can't believe you're saying that with Sweet Caroline it existed because that is the worst song of all time. But once we got to the point where the anthems were happening, everyone was booing. And that's the thing, because people were booing because they were separating the anthem and the establishment and all of those other things from the football team. And it's just one of those, I think it's a really uniquely Liverpool thing, but it always just makes me smile because it's like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. You don't have to be all in. You can pick and choose which parts you want to like.
No, well, I have to be all in.
It depends.
And so that is not my team. And that team represents historically a lot of bad stuff for me and my community. And that goes deep, and that's obviously a Celtic thing as well with a name like mine. You wouldn't expect me to say anything else.
Of course.
And so yeah, it's deep rooted. I wish Ireland were in there.
Well, I agree with you on that score. So like, I saw something where someone was having a go at Roy Keane for not celebrating like Riot Go. It's like, come on, man, please. Like I would actually be disappointed if it was.
Yeah, I genuinely think good too. And here's Roy Keane's reaction to the Dutch goal. You know what?
Fine, Roy. 100% Roy. You absolutely fill your boots there.
You go from there. You're back on a Spanish victory.
Yeah.
Or every sense.
I think they're the best team in the tournament. I think they knocked out Germany with the second best team in the tournament. I think England, give them credit, have become the third best team in the tournament, and now they've got a puncher's chance. And I think the great thing about football is you don't, just because you're the best team and you turn up doesn't mean you're going to win. And everyone who supports England deserves to support them and whatever have you, but oh my God, I hope they don't win. And you know, I'm having a laugh about it.
Why is it the Liffey, you know?
I'm sure it is, you know what I mean?
It's not like Box Park.
No, you know,
But very respectful of the anthems. Go on.
You know, I think Spain is definitely the best team. But sometimes if you've just got a bit of grit and you can hang in there and overcome a team that is better than you, and then you get a little bit of a break here and there and you stick in there and hang in there. And I think this English team has shown a bit of that. You know, I also, the moment that they got through it in the group thing and they got through into it was very clear they were going to get in the final because they were in the best half of the draw.
Yeah.
And I don't think England would have navigated the other side of the draw.
No, they wouldn't have done what Spain have done.
I don't think so. But then just because you've been the best team in the tournament, and you know, whatever, come the final, it's on the day, and you only need a wrong decision, you know, a soft penalty, you know, a mistake, an injury, and whatever. But yeah, I'd very much prefer Spain to win. In fact, I'm 100% Spain. I also think they probably will. I don't think it's a gimme though. I think it's been an interesting final, and so I'm not dreading it because you know, I think I'll still manage to get up for work the following morning, like if England win. I think I'll be able to get on with the fact that at least the Tories have been thrashed. It hasn't been a bad summer.
Exactly, that is the one that you are doing.
and that's the one. When I was a younger man, I might have gone, you know, I don't know, but you know, that's the big thing. You know, but I think Spain are better than me. Yeah.
Who's going to win?
Spain. I mean, I'd love to say England are going to win. And to be honest, I'm more confident. I was kind of like 10% thinking England had a chance of winning before the semi-final. But the way it's been going, I mean, they were behind in all 3 knockout games and they won them all. Like, if ever you felt like there was the hand of destiny pushing them into one direction, it's been now.
That's why I think if it was us, you'd be going, hey, the Devil's Club.
Exactly.
Also, as we also know, if you keep going behind, it smacks you in the arse eventually.
Yeah, no, it does eventually.
There is that.
Hopefully.
I just think that from a footballing point of view, the old version of Spain would have been harder for England to beat. The version of Spain is just like, this is our ball, you're not getting anywhere near it, you're just going to chase shadows for 85 minutes. They don't really play that way as much anymore, so that might give England a chance. I don't know, who knows?
England have a genuine chance.
Yeah. They have a genuine chance, England?
Yeah, they've been very boring to watch, but I think if it's going to happen, it'll happen this weekend. Hopefully not.
We'll be alright if it happens.
Yeah, we'll get our time again.
I'm really looking forward to the Craig Bellamy era, can I just say? Like, that's going to be a barrel of laughs.
Not for the players.
Someone else who manages aggression and was sent to the attention.
There we go.
From there, we came up with a good one. I'm also having a Liverpool shirt as well. Excellent stuff. Whatever you're doing over the weekend, there's obviously the Copa America final as well, where Colombia play Argentina. It just kicks off at 5 o'clock. By the way, on this, I'm gutted it's not for 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or 4 o'clock, the Euros final. I think it should be in the afternoon on a Sunday.
5:30.
Yeah. Also, I think it should be a night affair.
Kids are having to make really hard decisions about whether or not they're going to be allowed to go to bed or not.
It's sort of that, but I just also think, like, maybe I'm wrong, but sort of growing up, I'm sure these games tended to be afternoon affairs.
Yeah. I think so.
But I could be wrong. I am slightly gutted about it, but we'll see who wins between the Spanish and the English. See you later on.